There are lots of variations of the Seisan kata. We're going to look at the opening sequence: middle block punch, step punch, step punch. It's less important what variation you're doing, more important that you know why you're doing what you're doing. This is a significant sequence that if you understand how to apply it correctly, you can stop all manners of upper body strikes, grips, and pushes against you. If there's one thing that can be said about Asian kata, looks can be quite deceiving when it comes to the application of a form. The standard interpretation is a simple block strike. But this isn't at all what the kata is teaching. In fact, I'm going to step off to the left forward diagonal, and my punch isn't a punch at all, but in fact a setup to begin a sequence to place my attacker into a double lock, a shoulder lock followed by a wrist lock. A good deal of repetition is necessary to build up the sensitivity to be able to apply this lock correctly. There are little known internal energy manipulation principles at play here throughout this entire sequence. One principle could be considered the art of the draw. When you're doing a middle block, you're not just pushing the arm away, you're drawing the arm towards you. This is one type of middle block. It could be referred to as a yin middle block. Secondly, when we're throwing a punch, there's a little pop at the end of the punch. And that pop is designed to misalign the tricep of the opponent's punching arm, so it's easier to fold over and bend into the lock position. Stepping on the forward diagonal is not just a simple evasion. It's availing itself of Kiko principles to take energy from the opponent. Going straight in is always a problem if you have an opponent that's larger than you, even if you're fairly well balanced. So we want to let the opponent move into us, while at the same time we move off to the left outside. So he can come charging right past me if he wants to. I just simply want control of his lead arm. If I can compromise his right arm, I can control his entire body. This is why I want to draw his arm toward me and not just push it off to the side. I want his momentum to continue to accelerate forward, perhaps a little faster than he had anticipated himself. Let's take a look at this punch, which isn't a punch. We slide the radius bone at the end point of the tricep. We lift slightly upward, which will allow us to rotate the elbow down. Notice my right hand is going into the chamber position at my right side. I'm doing what essentially looks like a punch, but in fact, I'm using the motion to set up for a shoulder lock. Now, once I know I've rolled his arm, I want to pull it all the way down to the side. I want the opponent's body to be bent in half so that I can reach over with little effort and place the final two locks on him. This lock will be most effective if I get his wrist aligned with his spine, move it up towards his back, and then pull towards myself. At the same time, I'm going to press his wrist down into his forearm, which will put unusual stress on his wrist. So I have 2 points of pain happening here, one on the wrist and one on the shoulder. Now let's suppose my opponent isn't bent quite as much as I'd like him to be. As my right hand rides over as part of the punch, I will press downward on that shoulder. It's important that your arm is in that groove and not on the back. Then I'll place his arm over the center of his back, move it up towards his back. I'm also going to control his elbow there. If you bring your right arm down to the chamber where it should be done, you won't have to press his elbow down. Once the lock is placed, you're going to have a great deal of control over the opponent, but that doesn't mean he isn't going to try to get out. If he tries to go down and grab your leg, you just simply lift up towards yourself. He can't back up, and he can't rotate away. And since you're controlling him with these two joint locks, you can increase the pain intensity quite dramatically. One of the first reactions I got from students seeing this particular application was it appeared too complicated. But after a short while, you can move into the application quite quickly, and once you rotate the elbow, you have some seconds in which to get your hands into the final positions. The reason this move is so important and so significant is because not only will it control a right punch, but it will control a left punch using the exact same stepping and the exact same motions of the hand. So here I'm going to block to the outside, and my punch is going to come under the elbow where I control the tricep. My left arm, what looks like a punch, is part of the rolling sequence. I trade off the hands, and I've got my opponent again in a double lock, but this time on the opposite side. This is an incredibly effective move. It can stop a right punch. It can stop a left punch. If you have a two-handed attack coming towards you, you can simply choose which side you want to go after and just take that particular arm and control it. Once you're in this position, of course you have to watch out for an elbow coming up there. You'll be able to manipulate most upper body attacks coming at you. When it comes to the practice of karate kata, repetition is the key to power. If you know what kind of lock that key will open up. And in this case, what appears to be a simple block-punch combination turns out to be a highly effective joint lock maneuver. We're going to take a look at the opening movement sequence of Pinan Shodan in the Shorin-Ryu system. The Pinan sequences are extraordinary in their depth of knowledge about personal civilian defense. Again, I will state of kata that things are not what they often appear to be. To start, we are dealing with an opponent that's coming straight at us, and we are cutting off to the right side. As I've stated in the previous application with Seisan, there are Kiko principles involved here. These internal energy manipulation principles are designed to instantly reduce the muscular contractive ability of the opponent, often before there is even physical contact. And this is why I cut to the right side and I do a right high block as opposed to some other kind of maneuver with my right hand. Now that I've sidestepped his attack, reduced his physical resistance against me somewhat, I can finish with a strike to his ribs, to his neck, and I've added in a simple takedown, which looks like a low block followed by a straight punch. This is actually a very simple maneuver to pull off. I let my opponent's forward momentum continue. I accelerate it slightly. I give him two devastating blows, and in a disoriented state, it's easy to put him down to the ground. In your repetition of the form, you can work on and pinpoint where you want your blows to go, whether it's the base of the neck or the temple. You can work on your breathing. We're going to inhale on the block, followed by the exhale for the strikes. You'll find, if you're creative, there are a lot of other avenues you can follow up on after you have disoriented your opponent with the strikes. So you don't have to worry about making a mistake if you understand your principles of control. The goal in all kata work is not to simply collect applications, but to go deeper into the spirit and essence of the movements. And you'll find with all of these katas, you have a tremendous resource just within a few essential movements for controlling all manner of strikes or physical threats against your person.